over the past few years, we've been speaking a lot about semigration from parts of South Africa to Cape Town, mainly focused around the N1 trip, the 1,400 kilometers between Johannesburg and Cape Town. But what if it's the other way round now? There have been quite a number of reports of how the semigration trend is slowing, if not reversing. Many people from other parts of the country finding it hard to adapt to Cape Town, but also around the increase in rentals, property prices. The Western Cape property prices have surged by 25% over the last 5 years. It's been quite modest in Johannesburg, by about 12%. It offers better value. But Lester, the potholes. There are potholes in every city in this country, but also the fact that many people struggle to get a footing in Cape Town because of the widely held perception that Cape Townians are unfriendly. We're not unfriendly, but are unfriendly to people from other parts of the country. Gareth Gibson is in property. He's been living in Cape Town for a couple of months now. He's decided to move back. It was his video that I played earlier, saying it may be an unpopular opinion, but he's had enough of Cape Town. Good morning, Gareth. Really appreciate your time. Hope you've been well.
Morning, Lester. Morning to the listeners. Yeah, thank you very much. Been very well.
Why do you believe it's an unpopular opinion to say, Cape Town, not for me, I'm moving back to Joburg?
Well, look, I mean, the talk of the town is everybody wants to come down to Cape Town for some other reason. I think it's kind of, chasing the opportunity of maybe, across the country we all hear about, quote unquote, good governance, clean city, more opportunity. And yeah, it's an unpopular opinion because I know of a lot of people that are actually semigrating out of Cape Town but haven't spoken about it publicly. And everyone has their own reasons for it. But yeah, it is an unpopular opinion because just people don't voice it. So as you've said, people only are aware of it because of the stats that get released quarterly.
Well, let's speak of the stats, because you're not just someone who is talking to me with a lived experience. You also work in real estate, so you've been pretty aware of property prices that have surged and rentals that have surged in this city of Cape Town. How does it compare to Johannesburg?
Well, look, it's a very, very big comparison, a very deep, very wide gap. But like I say to a lot of people, you've got to compare apples with apples, And to give you an idea, is a house, a 3-bedroom, one bathroom house out in Blouberg, you're paying between maybe 15 and 20,000 rand. Whereas if you take a decent little suburb in Johannesburg, maybe you'll pay between 8 and 10,000 rand for the same thing. So it's vastly, vastly different. I think in my video I mentioned that I've got a budget for things like fuel, and I didn't have such a long time to list everything. Fuel costs pretty much the same all over the country, maybe better in coastal regions. But you've got to consider things like the cost of schooling, cost of groceries. Cape Town is kind of quite removed, so I know a lot of the groceries are quite expensive to get here. But it's all relative.
I've been reading some of the comments on your video with Cape Town. You say, well, you shouldn't have moved to the West Coast seaboard. You shouldn't have moved to the southern suburbs. You have to move to the northern suburbs of Cape Town, where you may get cheaper property prices, but that still means you're going to have to be on that N1 or an N2 to get into the CBD where many people work, Gareth.
For sure, 100%. The traffic, before I came down, everyone's like, oh, you moved to Cape Town, good luck with the traffic. I was like, oh, no, Joburg, Joburg is we used to traffic. Well, I can honestly say that I've seen it get worse over the year that I've spent here. Added 20 minutes to my driving time into town. And I can understand it. I mean, it's visibly obvious that, the big wave of people that have come in here has put the infrastructure here in Cape Town under pressure, let alone the housing crisis that it's created. And I don't think semigration from internal regions of South Africa are solely to blame, to be very honest.
Yeah. A contact and a friend of mine who works in the province's planning department says that many people believe that the biggest demand for housing comes from people who live in informalized dwellings. But he actually says, or they actually say, that it's actually working in middle class homes that are in the highest demand. It's the people who've moved here, wanting to build lives with their families, but also a growing Cape Town middle class who are moving, particularly young people, moving up and to be in their parents' homes looking for opportunities, but those opportunities aren't they either between the distance between maybe where their family homes are and where property or accommodation is available, but also the inhibiting cost of the properties in those areas.
Yes, of course, no, 100%. But in the same breath, I know of a couple of people who've actually just given up their independence to move back home with their parents. A handful of them are just taking the opportunity rather than doing what I'm doing, and I'm only doing it because I've sent my family back, is they are saying, okay, right, my lease is up, give me your notice, and I'm going to live at home for a year or two just to recapture my bearings. I think a lot of the issue is also this. I think it's up to 60% of corporates and companies have mandated a return to office, and that's also a big role player in the traffic volumes that we're experiencing. But also a lot of people are now having to go back where they came from. A lot of people took the opportunity that they had flexible working arrangements to actually move to other cities as well.
Joburg salaries versus Cape Town salaries, is there a real disparity between the two? Plus, you have a higher cost of living in Cape Town. Gareth?
Sure. So, look, I can only speak through the lens of my own experience. So, I don't want to speak on behalf of other people. Look, I had a salary adjustment coming down here, and I think it was just grossly miscalculated as to what was needed. And obviously, over the course of 2024, we welcomed our third child, a baby girl, into the family, and that just threw everything out of action. So there is, from what I hear and what people have told me, the salaries in Joburg are stronger, but it's just primarily they benefit of that strong salary level versus the cost of living. The big issue is you have to pay a big chunk of your salary or household income will go towards rental if you want to secure a decent home in a decent neighborhood with access to decent schooling.
Gareth, I wholeheartedly believe for South Africa to succeed, Joburg must succeed. So I'm very much part and supportive of an effort to get Joburg back on its feet. But we're already seeing that, particularly in more affluent areas of Joburg. The property reports are showing that there's strong recovery, people actually buying more properties in the more affluent parts of Joburg. We're seeing a resurgence of property in that area. It's an indication that people already started returning.
Yes. I've actually seen the trend starting, I think, within the third quarter of last year. And I have been saying to people, and it's not just Joburg, the semigration out of Cape Town is actually, we had a report that was released by a big financial institution saying that people are actually going to the Eastern Cape, to the Free State, to Gauteng, and even as far as Limpopo. And that's where the numbers are actually starting to prop back up and go up a positive growth trend. And I saw your video where you said, you didn't knock Joburg, and I'm not knocking Cape Town. I just need to go home. I love Joburg. It will always be in my heart. This is where I was born. And you're right. I also want to see it succeed because I believe it has that opportunity for a lot of people.
What are you going to miss about us, Gareth?
Well, look, I don't agree with a lot of the people say that Cape Townians are unfriendly. Every interaction I've had has only been... You're not. Every interaction has been positive. I'm honestly just going to miss, the beautiful scenery you guys have here. I can't speak much about. I haven't done much exploring in Cape Town. I haven't had the opportunity. But from what I have seen, it's been a very lovely place. I can understand why people fall in love with it. A lot to do here. And I know I'll be back. I'll be back at some point in time, but Joburg's where it's at for me.
Isn't that Joburg's where it's at? I think that's a song or title of a book. But Gareth Gibson, really appreciate your time. Quasi semigrant. He's a semigrant and he's a returning semigrant. Moved to Cape Town. Cost of living, it's out of his reach. He says moving back to Joburg.